Whoa. Now I'm fitting the oven, so it fits in the gap. The pain was always going to be, oh, let me try this gas connection here. But as I've set it up, there's some wiggle room here, so as we slide it back, this pipe will push back, and then I'll go underneath and then I'll fix the pipe into place. And then you can see that there's a nice dropout vent there, and then underneath the oven there's going to be a sealed drawer. So it'd be nice if it didn't leak, because then I'd have to take that drawer out yet again. And then we've got the electrical connection there as well. So it is all slowly coming together. So that's the oven all nice and flush. So let's go underneath. It's a little bit of a cramped working space, but that's the connection into the back of the oven there. So use the tiny bit of jointing compound, and then the pipe comes down to the floor and bends and comes up that way. So what I'll do is just put a fastener down there so that connection's super secure and doesn't vibrate too much. And then you have to have a shut-off valve for all gas appliances accessible. So my shut-off valve is just underneath there. And it's in the bottom of a cupboard, which is really easy to get to. Get out of here. That's pretty cool. Morning. So, me and the sink are not friends. Had a pretty big disaster yesterday. So I'd always worried about putting the silicone ceiling on and messing it up and then ruining the worktop. And basically the worst thing happened. So you put a silicone bead around the worktop and then place the kitchen sink on, and then you put these latches on underneath and then tighten them up, and it clamps it down onto the work surface. But I made a couple of fatal errors. Put the latches on the wrong way around, and then also the thickness of the worktop changes. So when it's 22mm, these clips don't fit. But then when it's overlapping the plywood base to the carcass of the cabinet, they fit fine. So after frantically scrubbing, trying to get wet silicone off the worktop and basically having a mini breakdown. And the other thing is, does silicone even stick to an oiled wood worktop? Like, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But then when I look on particular websites which sold the worktop, it says to still use the silicone bead, so I'll give it a go and hopefully it is waterproof. I've had to put these bits of plywood on where there's no plywood lining around the outside, so those hooks work. Here was easy, I could screw them in, but this point was a disaster because this gets in the way, so I can't get a drill under, and glue's not going to work very well because it's an oiled worktop. So what I ended up doing was sanding down underneath and using some epoxy resin. It's actually really difficult to do these screws up, and because there's no space underneath the worktop, I was using this stubby little thing, and I just couldn't get it to grip very well, even though it looked like it should, and it was slipping, and I've ruined the head a little bit on this one. And then I looked again at the instructions. So basically the biggest lesson is read the bloody instructions, and it's like PH2 cross PZ2 tick. I was like, what the flip? So yeah, classically I was using this. So I went and queued for an hour and 10 minutes this morning to get. Cost £5 for one screwdriver. What a joke. But hopefully that will stop me ruining the threads and get these flippers done up. She comes out to help because I've got silicone all over the new sink, and she cut herself about 3 times on the sharp edges of the sink trying to scrub it all off. And then when I was trying to screw the flipping sink up, I dented it. So brand new sink, it's got a little dent in it. I'm like, ah. So yesterday was a disaster, and my lack of previous DIY knowledge definitely shone through. But hopefully all of these mistakes that you guys can learn from, and we're going to have a better day today. I know this is probably really simple for most but if you've never put a sink in before, you wouldn't necessarily know. So when you put these in, you need to push them in, and then you need to make sure that this pushes down pushes forward so it's vertical, and then you slot it down to the depth and then screw it up. If you try and screw it up without pushing it forward, it's a flipping disaster. Right. Alright, so sink is in. It was a struggle. A bit of blood was spilt. I was trying to do these up. They were a pain to get done up, but they're there now. And put a very small clear silicone bead all the way around, and I'm just hoping that that does the trick. I don't know. Time will tell.